Didio.
Thank you everyone for having me here. Thanks for all for coming. Thank you, Eric, for putting this together, and happy birthday. Today I'm going to be speaking on a very important topic in my life. That's wine. More specifically, it's wine pairing. Now I chose this topic because I have a passion for this, because my dad has a passion for this. A lot of us follow in our parents' footsteps. My dad, some of you that don't know, he's been in the wine business for over 30 years. So ever since I can remember, he's been talking about wine. I wear wine t-shirts, I have towels, and I never appreciated it. I didn't care. When I started to drink, I drank the hard stuff in beer. I didn't care about wine. No one really cared about that. And then a couple of years ago, it started at Christmas. He started to tell me a little bit more about wine. I was a little bit more mature, and the only thing I remember from that Christmas is the great wine and pairing with the food that we ate. I don't remember what happened after that, because we drank a couple of bottles, but it was good. It was such a great feeling that I started to actually listen to him when he spoke about wine and spoke so passionately about that. Now, a lot of you, I know Kruger doesn't care about wine, he's a beer drinker, but in Empire, we constantly strive to improve ourselves and get better and separate ourselves from the competition. I believe, or I know, that this topic can actually help you both socially and professionally, because you're going to have this knowledge that separates you from the average person. We all live in or outside New York, so we're going to be running into these affluent people. Most of us, I was planning on significant others being here, but most of us, we deal with doctors on a day-to-day basis. These guys have money, they like to go out, they like to drink, they like the finer things in life. Wine is one of those things. I mean, we've all been, I know I've been at the table and someone's ordering wine. This is way back. I had no clue what was going on. How fun would it be if you're at the table and you're actually suggesting the wine? Doctor says, why? How do you know about this wine? Well, I'm not an expert. I just know some of the basics. That's what I'm going to give you today. It's going to be from a bird's eye view down at wine and wine pairing. There's a million experts out there, each contradicting themselves. You could probably Google 3 different things for 3 different foods. What I want you to get out of this, I want you to learn just the basic concepts of wine and wine pairing, and to understand that a little bit deeper, some of the characteristics of wine that make these characteristics true. Now, diving into some of the characteristics. Number 1, what I want you to remember. Think about the food and how it's being prepared. We don't think about that enough, because we don't really think grilled, fried, broiled. If it's fish, it's fish. If it's meat, it's meat. But we need to think past that, especially when pairing with wine. Having something steamed and something fried elicits completely different flavors. So if you choose the wrong wine, it could ruin the meal completely. We obviously don't want that. So think about how the food's prepared. And I'll get a little bit more in detail a little bit later. Number 2, if you're serving more than one wine, like I am tonight, make sure that you serve the light wine before the more full-bodied wine. And I'll get into that later, but full-bodied means more tannins. Basically what that means is white before red, in layman's terms. And also serve your drier wines before the sweeter. And I'll go into that later when I present the wines that we're going to pair with the sushi. And 3, this is last, but it's definitely not least. If you take away anything from this speech, match the weight of the wine with the weight of the food. What's the weight? I weigh a lot. What does that mean? It's not that simple. It's not that. It has to do with the actual characteristics of the wine. So whenever you hear about weight, what should trigger in your mind is, one, the acidity, the sweetness, and the tannin levels of the wine. Those three components are generally speaking what make up the weight of the wine. Diving a little bit further into what those are, the acidity level is basically just the fruit acid in the wine. A high acidic wine is almost always white, and it's fruity tasting. You want to pair the high acidic wines with something clean and refreshing, because when we're talking about weight, we don't want to have something fatty and fried and full of flavor and oh, it's so good, and then you pair it with something that's clean and crisp and acidic. We all know what lemon tastes like and citrus tastes like. It's refreshing. That's not what you'd want with the dish will taste dull. It's going to cut through the fat. Number two, the sweetness. This is a little bit easier. You usually have it at the end of the meal, like our concept number one. Have the sweeter wines at the end of the meal, the drier wines in the beginning. Basically, there's not much to know here. It's the sugar content in the wine. And going back to rule number 3, matching the weight, you want to make sure that you match the sweetness of the wine that you're having with the sweetness of the dish. If you have a very sweet ice wine, for instance, with a steak, you're going to be left unsatisfied. And if you're going to be left unsatisfied, and vice versa. Number 3, and this is where people might not know the most about wine, is the tannins. Everyone hears tannins. It's this big pretentious word, tannins. They throw it around all the time. You hear all these experts throw it around. All it is just tannic acid. So going back to acidity, you have acidity. Think white wines, clean, refreshing. When you think about tannins and tannic acid, think about red wines. That's what gives you the perkiness. And those wines that have a lot of tannins, aka the red wines, the Cabernets, the Zinfandels, that's what you want to pair with a huge, big, awesome stew, big steak. That's why, generally speaking, you have like the white with the fish and the red with the meat. But let's look past that just a little bit. We'll mix and match some of these concepts. What if you're having a grilled salmon or a grilled flounder? A lot different taste than if it was steamed or poached. If it was steamed or poached, back to our rules, we'll go with the high acidic, the fruity wine, the white wine. But you have some freedom if it's grilled or broiled. Has a different flavor, and it opens it up where you can go with a red wine. Maybe low in tannins, a little higher in acidity, but it's a red wine, like a Pinot Noir is a good choice. That's my father's favorite. The salmon and the Pinot Noir. Now, those are the 3 characteristics of wine. They're meant to. Experts speak very pretentiously, even if I don't even know if that's a word. That might be pretentious, but they speak of this wine and it makes people afraid. They don't want to go after it. They're afraid. They just want to stick with the white with fish, the red with meat. That's it. But I think if we can use this as a tool to differentiate ourselves with our doctors, with some of the office staff. I had a great talk with Dr. Weinstein last week at a dinner. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I don't know all there is to know about wine, but I know a few points. He's asking me my opinion on this red and that red. I throw out the tannin levels and blah, and boom, we have this connection. I'm his wine guy now. He asked me, "Oh, what do you think of that wine cellar? How the heck do I know about the wine cellar? Sure, doc, it looks great. Buy some Orthovis. Unbelievable. Anyway, what I want you guys to get out of this talk, so we've talked about the concepts. You have the main concepts of the wine. Basically, you want your light or white wine before your more full-bodied red wine. And you want your drier wines, like we're about to have, the Sauvignon Blanc, before the sweeter Riesling wine for the sushi. And number two, actually skip number two. I just want you to understand the weight. And that's understanding the acidity, which we can associate with more like with white wines. Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay, high acidity, fruit. With the weight of the food. And if we associate those with the acidity, if we have a basic understanding of the acidity, the tannin levels, and the sweetness, I think we'll be more prepared going into our next dinner. If it's with Didio, hopefully it's healthcare compliance approved. But we can use this knowledge to separate ourselves, become different, and enjoy ourselves with our doctors, socially and professionally. Thanks, everyone.